1 year ago, the Gallery of Portland, a Black History Month panel, was presented at the Brownstone Intermediate School. Today, we continue that project with Voices of Portland. I would like to introduce John Dillon for some opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start by trying to follow my notes I wrote around the margin here. As I arrived this morning, Jen gave me my speech, my introduction, and I think it's important to recognize and thank Jen for asking me to do this. As Bob said, I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen, but I'm also someone who's lucky enough to say that my family's called this place home for generations. I'm honored to be part of this, and I think last year's presentation was amazing. And I thank everybody for doing this again, and I hope we keep doing this.
Yes.
So it's with my great honor to welcome you all here today as we gather to recognize and celebrate the invaluable contributions of our past and present Black residents in shaping the rich history of Portland, Connecticut. The stories of Black Americans living and working in communities are often overlooked. But through the Voices of Portland project, we hope to bring these important stories to light, honoring the many ways Black individuals have shaped the fabric of our town through their work, their community involvement, and their resilience. This project was made possible through the generous support of Connecticut Humanities, an organization dedicated to connecting people to the humanities and fostering collaborative programs in our state like this one. In addition to Connecticut Humanities, we would like to thank the Portland Public Schools, the Portland Historical Society, the Portland Library, Friends of the Portland Library, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, and Adams Hometown Market for helping to bring this project to life, ensuring that the rich legacy of Black Americans in Portland is celebrated and passed on to future generations. As we embark on this journey, we honor the past, and we hope to inspire future generations to appreciate the depth and diversity of Portland's history. Together, let's continue to celebrate the legacy of all those who have helped shape this town into the community that we are proud to be part of today. So thank you for being here. I encourage each of you to engage with the stories shared this afternoon and those that will be shared in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. The mission of the Portland Historical Society is to collect, preserve, and share information about Portland history. The Voices of Portland is an ongoing oral history project that will record and preserve memories, giving us historic vignettes of living and working in Portland, Connecticut. Recordings will be available online as episodes become available through the town's website and YouTube channel. The first episode, a podcast featuring former Portland resident Barbara Miller, is already on the town's YouTube channel, thanks to a generous grant from Connecticut Humanities. Today's discussion will be the next episode in the Voices of Portland series. As the Voices of Portland episodes become available, they will also be airing on Comcast Channel 15 Thursdays at 4 p.m. A reception in the cafeteria will follow the panel discussion. At the reception, you will find a memory recording booth provided by the Connecticut Valley School of Music, which is available for anyone to share their memories of living under the bridge. The Historical Society is sharing information on times under the bridge at our table in the lobby, and we are also actively collecting and copying old photographs of Portland. If you have material you would like to share with us, please leave your contact information with the volunteer at the Historical Society's table so we can make arrangements to preserve these valuable pieces of history. Urban renewal started in the United States after World War II and was largely funded by the Housing and Urban Development HUD agency. In Portland, urban renewal started in 1966 with the establishment of the Portland Redevelopment Agency, PRA, and it involved the complex process of First identifying blighted properties in town, then assessing the property's values, negotiating the sale of the properties, relocating the affected families and businesses, demolishing their homes and workplaces, improving the area's public utilities and streets, and finally selling the vacated land to new private industrial developers. The process of redevelopment was funded by HUD at 80%, the state of Connecticut 10%, and the town of Portland 10%. The majorities of the families who were dislocated in Portland were low to moderate income, and many of them were black. Let's see here. You're familiar with the children's game of 20 questions. Last year we were stretched for time, so this year we're going to try to play 10 questions in a little over an hour. And the first question is going to be for, I missed an introduction piece here. Here we go. Rewind a little bit. I'd like to introduce today's panelists. Should have started with that. Try reading with the lights in your eyes and see how you do. So at the far left here, we've got Barbara Shaw, was born and raised in Portland, attended Portland schools, Central, Valley View, junior high, and graduated from Portland High School, the class of 1969. Next, we have Patricia Hall Jemison, attended Portland schools, graduating from Portland High School with the class of 1980. She was employed at several local businesses, including Standard Nap, Portland Dukes as a cheerleading coach, and Tommy's Pizza. Next, we have Reverend Lawrence Woods, lived in Portland for the first 12 years of his life before moving to Middletown, where he was a running back on the football team and graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in the class of 1969. And last but not least, we have David Rohn, whose family moved to Portland in 1945, attending school here until 1957 when he enrolled at Vinyl Tech's electrical trade program and graduated with the class of 1960. With that, we'll move on to our questions. Little bit of a preamble here. Geographically, the area where in Portland, where many black families lived before redevelopment came in 1976 was the south end, the streets between Bank Street, Lower Main Street, Bransfield Avenue, Wolcott Avenue, and Airline Avenue. The area was referred to as under the bridge. And our first question is for Reverend Wood and for Patty, and it is, describe your home, the street, and the nearby stores and restaurants where you grew up. So we'll start with Reverend Woods.
Okay. We want to thank you for the privilege to share the knowledge that I have and memories of Under the Bridge. And I want to thank all those in the audience for an interest to hear what we have to say. So can you give yourselves a hand for just being here? My recollection of growing up under the bridge, my grandmother had purchased, which are no longer available, a coal flat. She bought a home, and it was a coal flat. And how does a home become a coal flat? You know, it was a brick house, a cinder brick house, and we lived at the end of Under the Bridge so that we could see. There used to be an old lumber yard there. It used to be Lowenthal Lumber. We lived right in front of the big red barn, and we could see the river because we lived upstairs over my grandmother, and we could see the river from upstairs. And we lived on the side. There was a front door, but we had to enter from the side to go upstairs in our coal flat. And I remember explicitly the first time we had experience with the river rising. When we would come downstairs from the coal flat, the river was right there. So we had to step into, basically had to swim to get to the lower part of the where the river would stop rising. So we lived, there were two other houses going up towards the bridge. That whole section was, every time it flooded, we always had to deal with that deal with the flood. There was Smitty's Luncheonette right up the street from where we lived, and then there was Joe's Variety Store. And I remember before we went to school, because we had to go up to, we had to climb up the hill from underneath the bridge to get on Main Street to go to the elementary school. And I remember we used to stop there every day on our way up to pick up a bag full of penny candy. And that was a treat, getting up in the morning, going to that little variety store where all of us would gather. All of the kids who were school age would gather there, and we would clean them out every school morning because there were so many of us, and a lot of us weren't fortunate to have to be able to have our lunches, because that's just the way it was. So we would buy a lot of penny stuff, and that would be our lunches for the day. And sometimes we even had enough left over. We would eat it on the way home. So that was what we did. One of the great things in my growing up was that we would get up in the morning, and before we'd go to school, we would try to have little games right in the middle, because it was like a cul-de-sac. And in the cul-de-sac, it was a green, not a very big green, but that was where we would all assemble, to play our little daily games. And then after school, we would come back, and all of us, did homework if we had, did any chores if we had chores to do. And then after that, we would all assemble at that little green where we would have our recreation, because at the time when we were going to school, there wasn't a lot of recreational programs for us. So we had to come back to the place where we lived, and we would get together and we'd play stickball, softball, kickball, anything that had to do with a ball. That's what we did. And we were kind of creative kids, we would, even though the school had playtime, but it was that playtime that we had among ourselves, because when we were going together at school, it was almost like it was a separations. The minority students were over here, and then the rest of the school population was over there. So, we felt, well, we don't want to jump rope or do country dancing and stuff like that. We didn't know nothing about that. We just wanted to do our own thing, and that's what we did. So that was a height of some of the things that we did as children. We had our own unofficial recreation program, and of course, you get bumps and bruises, and that's where I started playing football. And I remember there was a turnaround in that green. It was nothing but mud and dirt, and then further away it was grass. But it seems like every time we played football, we were playing in that mud and dirt. So that kind of toughened you up. You wish you could have got on the grassy area, but a lot of times you just couldn't. But that was the story, part of our recreation, and that community was a community. We didn't know we were poor a lot of times, because everybody was on the same level. We hardly ever saw the police down there. Okay, I don't know why, but I don't remember seeing police cars until I moved to Middletown. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna give Patty a chance to answer the
Patty,
question.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. The businesses I remember, it's also like our backyards, was Garvin Ceramics, Gordon Salvage, and Zaz. Zaz was one of my best friends. I went to see him every day after school. I collected worms for him every time it rained, and again, he was my friend. And then there was Smitty Luncheonette. We also, under the bridge, were centered in front of an industrial park. That was very dangerous for any children to grow up, but we found our ways around Valley Oil, their traffic, their trucks, Anderson Oil, and Tomaso's. There's also Continental Can, Airline Avenue, and Standard Nap, where we used to play. Do you guys remember those big, tall rolls or whatever it was? We were in and out of those. Yes. We would take our bikes down to Tomaso's and ride up those hills. We could have been buried in those sands and those gravel. And our mothers and parents, don't blame them. They told us not to go there. And of course, they went to work. So we call ourselves deceiving our parents, but you cannot hide red dirt on your skin. You know, how it get in your hair. And so those are the businesses that I remember. Where I lived, at first it was called Mr. Stewart, used to be a landlord. Then my Uncle Joe bought a house. And we had a big, lovely yard, winding stairs, old furnace, and it was great living on his property. And again, two redevelopment came. Again, we didn't know we were poor. I didn't know because my father brought home good money. My father was an auto body. He owned his own body. My uncles owned their own gas stations. And out of a family of 8, I never wanted for anything. I got a bike. My 4 sisters had a bike. My parents had matching cars because my father did auto body. He worked for Sallo J. Marinos, crane services. He painted large operational equipment. He also worked for Portland's boat yard. They loved him. He grew up on the beaches in Virginia, and he cleaned their brass for them. He got paid very well for that. And those were the businesses I remember, and that's in my home. Again, I remember we used to burn garbage. I had a thrill in burning garbage. Remember we had to burn our garbage in these big barrels? Daddy used to say, "Come on, you firebug." And that was the neighborhood and the businesses I remember.
Very nice, Patty. Thank you. Our next question is for Barbara and David. What impact did your mother, Eugenia Shaw, have on the community under the bridge and in the development of Chatham Court? We'll start with Barbara.
Okay, my mother went down under the bridge and she worked for Community Action of Greater Middletown. She was considered a neighborhood worker, and her job was to take care of the residents that resided under the bridge. The office started out in the old VFW building. It was one room and then a small office in the back. In that one room, my mother organized a 4-H club for the kids. They came from Haddam. Veronica Zanelli came in with the mothers to teach them homemaking. Ann Habino would come to talk to the mothers about finances, employment. My mother, it was a daily chore. She knew everyone that lived there, went to their houses, and she was Mrs. Shaw, but she was not the neighborhood worker. She was their grandmother, their aunt. They respected her, the children respected her, and it was important that she would, every year at the end of the summer, we would do a trip to take them to the Bronx Zoo,
Yes.
to see other things. And then she got a group called the Portland Foundation, which was concerned residents in town that cared about the residents down under the bridge, and worked with them is how we got the Martin Luther King Center to move out of that one room. That we had all kinds of activities. We had an educational room so the kids could get tutored. They had a rec room where there was a pool table. Garvin Ceramics came in for the mothers and taught ceramics, and they picked up the tab. It did not cost the residents anything. Then when redevelopment came, my mother left Community Action, and she became the first director of the Portland Housing Authority. And her main thing is that how Chatham Court got built, because she said, what are you going to do with the residents that resided there? As far as the town was concerned, they were not going to do anything. They would be happy, just let them move out. And my mother said, not on her watch. and that's why she left and became the director of the Portland Housing Authority. She found a developer that was very generous, who added some things that normally you would not get. And the main thing, she told them that it was not a project, it was a development.
Amen.
And when it came time to get the residents to come back and had moved to Middletown, my mother went to every former resident and brought them back. And to this day, we have here in Portland, and she still resides in Chatham Court, Mrs. Odessa Buttram.
Yes.
She is 96 years old. She started down under the bridge on Bransfield Avenue, and she is the only original tenant of Chatham Court.
Very nice. David, do you have anything to add?
Repeat the question.
All right, sure. What impact did your mother, Eugenia Shaw, have on the community under the bridge and in the development of Chatham Court?
My mom had a great impact, but one of the things my sister didn't say, she started out and really before then, she was involved when I was really young. I think I was 6, 7 years old. She started with the NAACP. She and I don't know if there's people from Middletown here. He was one of the first black police officers in Middletown, and he rose to the rank of Captain Jackson. He used to come over to Portland. They would meet at my mother's house and talk about all of the problems in Portland as well as Middletown. I know a lot of people don't like to hear it, but Portland was, in my opinion, was very, very, very prejudiced. I got to experience it early in life because I used to deliver the Hartford Courant, and I would have to go into the parts of Portland where normally you wouldn't find us as a race of black people, and would hear the N-word all the time, like, what are you doing here, etc. So she was very, very adamant about to me, my brothers and sisters, that we should not let that get us down, that we should arise above that.
Yes.
On the other side, my grandmother was just the opposite. And my younger brothers and sisters would tell you that they think that I took a lot more from my grandmother, learned a lot more from my grandmother, or used my grandmother's language and words, which I won't use today. But that's how it was. And the difference is that we grew up on High Street. There was the Smith family. We were the first there, and then and that's not. We're no relation to Smitty and the Smith family that grew up underneath the bridge. And we lived in Anderson's Farm Supply on Marble Street, on corner of Marble and High. We lived in one of Johnny Anderson's houses that were on High Street. And he was very instrumental in helping black people in growing up in Portland or in Portland. And I say to this day was one of the reasons why he became the first selectman of the town of Portland. We would only get get to go underneath the bridge, my younger brother and I were happy to go down and see the rest of our folks who were growing up underneath the bridge, because we were only allowed to go down there on Sundays. We had to go to church. The only black church in town was True Vine Church, which was underneath the bridge. So it was a joy to us not going to church, but to be able to walk and go down there, because then we got to see our people
Yes.
down there. And my mother was very adamant, and especially my grandmother and grandfather, he was a deacon at the church, and they would say to us, when we left High Street, we would leave out before them. When we got to the church, we better be clean, our clothes, because we'd walk down the railroad tracks from Marble Street down to Airline Avenue. And then we would walk down Airline Avenue to the church. And we better not have no soil on our clothes. We would hear about it, and I could remember a couple of times getting it right there in the church. Yeah, so, but she was very instrumental, and then so like I said, she was involved in Portland, along with Mrs. Savino and a few other people, young in life. And but where we grew up, and then I'm through, we grew up on the corner of High and Marble Street. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses there that were before you got to Freestone Avenue and High Street. And they were all owned, with the exception of one, were all owned by the Andersons. And we got to live there. My grandfather, we started off living with my grandfather, and he had a big backyard. He had a garden, his own garden, etc. And so we would play, but again, we did not play with everybody around us was either Polish. There were a couple of Italian families, but everybody else around us that we grew up with and the young kids that we played with were all Polish kids. We learned young in life, again, we weren't supposed to get mad when they called us out of our names, but I was the defiant one,
Yes.
and would let you know, and had a number of fights. And we had to walk to school. We had to walk up to, back then it was Central School, Hubbard
Central.
Central School.
Yep.
And again, the only other thing that helped us was my grandfather, in those days, dug the graves by hand for St. Mary's Church. And it was so people would not follow us, or they would catch it if they did and found out, because
Agreed.
Smitty, my grandfather, was the custodian for the church, and Father Butler, Father Kane, they would not let, if they saw somebody and thought their own people, their own color, following us, they would stop them. No, you leave them alone. So it was, and I agree with Reverend Woods and that we didn't think we were poor neither by living there, because we never had to worry about food, because my grandfather had everything in his garden. He used to take us, we would walk down the railroad tracks, and he taught me as a young kid how to go hunting for rabbit. He had rabbits in his backyard. He had chickens in his backyard, so we didn't know what or ever crossed our mind until I got up into junior high school in Portland, and then that's when I started realizing that we were actually poor, and that's why we lived where we lived.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
We're going to move on to question 3 here. To keep us on track, I'm going to allow 2-minute answers, and
Good
when
for
you
you.
hear that's your cue to wrap up and
Very
we'll move
good.
on. So hopefully that'll be fair to everybody, because
Yes.
last time we didn't get through all the questions, and my goal is to get through all of them today.
Great.
So our third question here is for Reverend Woods and Patty again. Tell us about your family and who lived in Portland. We'll start with Patty this time.
I come from a family of 8. My mother was born on Freestone Avenue, and my mother died on Riverside Street. She never wanted to live in Portland. My father's from Virginia. Once he met my mother, they were together ever since. My mother had 5 previous children before meeting my father. My oldest brother, Philip Afonso, is a Vietnam vet. My sister, Dolores, college at New Britain Central, and she's a part of the Black Panthers. So I was raised by an old school black woman and a new school Panther, and it was the combination of who I am. My brother Randy is also in the Army, airborne ranger like my father. My brother James, he's the only living brother I have out of 8. Then there's my sister Karen, myself, Karen also. This is funny, the 3 of us. My mother put the 3 of us in the same college. We went from the same damn bedroom to the same room in college. We all went to AIC, so where she told us that we owed her a high school diploma, but we owed ourselves college degrees, and she was not going to let anything come between that. So that's where we went, and then my younger sister, Gloria. We were one of the few families that had a father. My father had a very good income. We were allowed to have one of our friends go away with us in the summer vacation, and I loved my parents for that. My friends loved it. The only thing that was unfair, we couldn't pick them all. We couldn't bring everybody. And is that it? Did I play any sports? Or that's it?
Yeah, did
All
you
right,
do
Reverend Woods.
I did do sports. I was track star. I loved it. 100, 224 by 4, and I never lost a race. I also was a cheerleader. I was also a majorette, and I also developed my own dance team. So during halftime, I had to put my cheerleader uniform, go run, and go change into my majorette uniform, and come back in my dance uniform. And then, we were talking about the way here, I was hit by a car on Route 66. I was hit by Cumberland Farms. It ended up almost by the old brownstone restaurant. I was in a wheelchair for 3 years. I had both my legs in casts for a year. Never came downstairs. Departments are not handicap accessible any kind of way. I was homeschooled. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. By Miss Walensky. I'll never forget how she came, and my mother never let me outside in that wheelchair. First of all, my legs and the casts were too heavy, so my legs were always straight. And I also remember the green that you were talking about. So Tootie, my sister Dolores, who was part of the Black Panther, such a smart woman, she gave us a great imagination. We should think that that green was a jungle. She had to see the tall grass as a jungle. And we really believed as we weaved ourselves through that unmowed property, that's what it was, untaken care of property, as a jungle, due to her ability to educate us in Black history, because after school, that's what we did. We learned Black history. I knew who Rosa Parks was. She was old news to me. All right.
All right, Reverend Woods.
That was a good one.
My family, they were sharecroppers, and they moved from a place called Palaca, Florida, to Portland. Well, they started in New York, then they moved to Portland. And my grandmother I remember, as I said, she bought this brick house at the end of, under the bridge, right in front of, it was right across the street from the boneyard, okay, which was the chemical plant. And our house, her house, sat right in front of that red barn. My father worked at, he worked at Continental Can. Then I had an uncle, his name was Alfonso, he worked at the boneyard, the chemical plant, but that didn't sit right for him because he thought he was too fly to be working at a boneyard. Okay, so he left and he went back to New York. Then my aunt came up and she bought the house right next to the house down from where the Smiths used to live. From, I forget who she bought it from, but she was always an entrepreneur, and she opened up a beauty salon in her house. And then my grandmother, she loved real estate on a small scale. She had another coal flat in the back of her house, and she had a small backyard. And I remember going into that backyard playing with the children there. I remember every Friday, okay, my mother would gather me and my two other brothers, one in a carriage, and we were smaller. We used to walk every Friday across the Portland Bridge because it used to be, I believe it was A&P, where the Salvation Army is now in Middletown.
Yeah.
And we used to walk that every Friday through rain, sleet, and snow to go grocery shopping because we didn't have suitable transportation when my father needed it to go to work. So we'd go over every Friday to do grocery shopping. She would have bags. You couldn't see my baby brother because he had so many bags where he was sitting. And then me and my other brother were struggling with the groceries because walking across that bridge, and I tell you, that bridge was a nemesis. And when I was able to drive across that bridge, I drove across that bridge.
Excellent. Now we're on to question
Didn't
4.
wanna walk.
Sorry to rush you along here. All right, question number 4. This is for all 4 of our panelists. What did you do for fun when you were young? Sports, games, family gatherings, etc.? We're going to start with David.
What I did was played. Again, I played with children or kids my age.
Talking on my,
Sorry. Played with kids my age. I used to play baseball. I used to play. We didn't play football, but baseball, basketball, things that went and. There was only a couple of houses that I was allowed to, the parents would allow me to cross the street. There was Unicawich was one family that would allow me to come into their yard and play with their, because they had a bunch of boys. They would allow me to come in there. There on Airline Avenue, there was the Stevenson family. I could go there, and I used to like going there because they would allow me to come in the house, and on Fridays, they used to have peanut butter and crackers, and they not only allowed me to come in, they would allow me to sit there and eat with them. So as far as, and anything else that we did, it was done between me and my 2 younger brothers who were twins. We just played together.
Reverend Woods.
Yes, for me, it was playing in the middle of that green that was in the middle of under the bridge, and we would play all kind of sports. And then as we got a little older, the ones of us who were a little more brave would go over to the quarry, okay, and swim in the quarry. That was an experience. But for us, it was just the neighborhood getting together and just coming together to play and have a great time.
Hey, Patty?
In my household, again, I come from a family of 8. The 4 older were teenagers, and the 4 younger girls, we fought like girls do. My mother got absolutely tired of that. So we didn't get toys. We got games. We played word games. Everything we had to do was an educational toy. And the only time we argued was looking at the dictionary, see if the word was right. Playing backgammon, anything that stopped us from yelling and screaming the whole time. I was inspired by David. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I've been teaching dance since I was age 10, and I was playing outside on Bank Street when Mr. Rickson, I think, he owned Nutmeg Enterprise, and he saw me direct kids older than me into a perfect dance routine. He kept sitting there and kept saying, "There's a white guy over there. He's staring at us. So stay over here. Don't go over there." And he just stayed. And then he came one day and gave me a card and told me to give it to my mother. And since then, I was employed. I went to Big E, parades, me, 10 years old, and the kids behind me who were younger. So I spent a lot of my time teaching dance, and I took it right to Chatham Court, when I grew up in Chatham Court, and I brought it to my college, and I still do it. I go in communities in Hartford, and I sit there and look about them and see what's going on, find a building, whether it's a church, the Boys and Girls Club, the Salvation Army said, "I need your space. I got so many number of kids," and I never had to get my own company. Well, I have the overhead when we had facilities that could support the community. So dancing was my thing.
Very nice. Barbara?
Okay, for me, growing up, it was predominantly white, and there were a family that had 4 kids. So they were younger than me, but they were my playmates, so we'd be out there doing hopscotch, hide and seek. And because I was the youngest, my 2 older brothers, they used to go down the railroad tracks. And one time I can remember following them. They didn't want me to go, but they were my other playmates. And they were mad because my grandmother said, "You have to take her," and I lost my shoes in the mud. And after I got a spanking about it, then she made my brothers go back and find my muddy shoes. So that's how I entertained myself with these younger children, and we played school, and I was the teacher, and they were my students.
Nice.
Very nice. All right, our question number 5, this is for everyone again. When the town had celebrations, did the community under the bridge join in, or did that community have its own celebrations? And we'll start with Barbara and work back this way.
Okay, for me, it was a little bit different because I grew up on High Street. So I was used to going to things that were going. I didn't go to a lot of things. And as far as down under the bridge, is, there really weren't, big celebrations going on. But Patricia and Lawrence can talk about it better. But even then, growing up, Portland didn't do a lot of community things to involve the community. So it was a separate community, and like they didn't exist.
Okay.
We always participated in the Portland Memorial Day Parade. There's 4 of us. We were Brownies, Girl Scouts, and thanks to Mrs. Shaw and Mrs. Brackett, we were 4 race leaders. But again, we had a father, and we had transportation, and they took us everywhere. We took day trips to New York, Rhineland, to the beach. We were never home. I used to live in Cape Cod 2 years ago, and that's where I got my love from Cape Cod, because my parents would take us there every summer.
Very good. Reverend?
For me, where my grandmother's house lived, it was almost in front of that big green. And when we would have celebrations of cookouts,
That green.
she would be the the originator of that. So, when we cooked out and we did barbecues, hot dogs, and churning that homemade ice cream, which I was the one right on it because I got the, if any of you remember the old ice cream churn, you had the paddle, I always got the paddle, okay? That had the most ice cream on. But when we had celebration, it was always there, and then the neighborhood would just come and just bring dishes or whatever, and that would be our time for celebration.
Nice.
Okay, David.
Yeah, and again, with I and my sister and younger brothers, we were taught and recognized the holidays when they came about, but as far as being involved with the total community, we weren't involved at all. And again, it was because growing up on High Street and living there, if something was going on and in the community, we just weren't invited. We were there as a black family that as far as I'm concerned, was allowed there. And if we didn't know the Anderson family and a few other people, I don't know where we would have been. But again, it's being involved in community things, we weren't. I could remember going to where the junior high school used to be on Main Street, going there and not even being allowed to go into the basketball games. I could remember trying to wanting to play on the baseball team, and I couldn't do that. The Farrell's was the Farrell restaurant. It was a bar. We called it a bar. It's still there on Morville Street. I was about the same age or a few years younger than the two Farrell boys, and so they sort of took me under their wings. And whenever there was something going on in the community, they would take me. Otherwise, I would just stay home and play with my brothers and sisters, and that was it. Again, we have to remember that Portland was with a few exceptions like the Habinos and people like that, it was a very, very, very prejudiced town. And I really experienced that. I do, like I said earlier, I delivered newspapers, the Hartford Courant in the morning and Middletown Press in the afternoon, and going up and down Marble Street, going Main Street. I had to get used to the N-word. What are you doing here? And these are grown-ups. And again, you know, they knew I was coming to deliver the paper, and as newspaper kids, we'd wait for Christmas, holidays, and stuff like that, because that's when you got a lot of your tips for delivering the papers. I couldn't, to this day, if I told you 5 people that gave me something because it was Christmas, et cetera, like that, I'd be lying.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Because 99% of the people that I delivered papers to were white folks.
All right. Our next question here, this is a question that wasn't asked last year. It says, was Portland ever considered a sundown town? Does anyone want to take a shot at that?
If it was, we were ready for it. We son who? Son what? We're going to stay. We're a whole different generation. They were prejudiced. I was called the N-word. I had some fights, but I was never threatened or felt I had to hide or run from where white folks were. And if it was sundown, we probably would have dared it.
For the
Under the
audience's
bridge.
benefit, could somebody define sundown town?
Okay, yeah, you can define sundown, so, well, maybe some of them don't understand what sundown.
That's why I'm asking if somebody here would do it. I'm
okay.
not sure I have it
Oh,
right.
Okay, well, what sundown really means is when it got dark, if you were black, you couldn't come out. I can say honestly, growing up in Portland, no, that was not here because I feel because they all were under the bridge, so they didn't have to worry about them coming at sundown uptown.
Yes.
But the other thing too is there really was not anything uptown
For us to come up.
at sundown to bring us uptown.
You're
There
right.
was
Nothing.
nothing here. So no, Portland was not like, okay, the sun goes down, you got to stay in your place. No. So that, they did not have the reputation.
No.
Perfect
It-
answer.
yeah.
We're going to move on to our next question, number
Okay.
7 here. This is for everyone. When the Portland Development Agency began urban redevelopment, how did that impact you and your family?
Okay,
We'll
Pat,
start with
okay.
Patty.
It affected me in very different ways. I grew up in a house with a yard, 2-car, and then I grew up, and I felt like we went backwards. It messed with my self-esteem. It really did. I just felt like we went backwards. To this day, I'm not living in an apartment. I would rent a house. I don't want to be next door to anybody. I don't want to hear anybody's arguments. I don't want to hear anybody's birthday party. I just don't want to be confined. I don't want to be, and that was confinement. So I love Chatham Court because I love the people in it. But some people to this day will never know what it's like to live in a house in a yard. And they're okay with it.
Barbara, anything to add?
I feel that even though I did not live under the bridge, and I lived on High Street, but it affected me because I spent my majority of my time with my mother at work, so I had friendship with all these residents and their kids, so they were like family to me. So to see where the town did not care about them, I didn't have to worry because I lived on High Street, and the bottom line is I grew up in Whiteville. So I didn't have to worry about being displaced.
That's a great word.
And these families were being displaced, and I felt what the town really wanted them to be gone. Wouldn't have to worry about it.
Reverend Woods.
Well, before, our family was gone before redevelopment had hit Portland. And we had moved to Middletown, but my family experienced redlining. So I guess it's kind of more of the same,
Yes.
the same thing.
Okay. David?
Because I was sort of involved in redevelopment and demolishing of under the bridge,
Another word.
because of the position that my mother was in. Can you hear me now?
He has to get closer.
Can you hear me now?
Not really. Not like on this.
He can't touch the mic.
Second. I took a different attitude. And my attitude was that
Battery.
I had gone in the service, came out of the service, et cetera, and had experienced racism to the hilt, especially like being in the Marine Corps. My attitude was that it was no different than any place else that I had been and experienced racism, where they just went in, and truth be told, I believe Mama was, I'm not sure of any other black person that was really involved in redevelopment of the town of Portland. We, as black people, we were just ignored, and you had to take and like what they were building for you. To me, it was nothing different. I had to take a different position, though, because, again, I worked at that time when I came out of the Marine Corps. I went to work for CAGM, and so they used to hound us about our attitude had to be different, and we had to feel different. But Portland was no different than when I was out in California, when I was down south, places like that. When it came to redevelopment and displacing of black people, Portland was no different.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question here, number 8. What could Portland Development Agency have done differently? And this question was recently asked to Barbara Miller during her interview, and her answer was that they could have talked to us.
Yeah.
Would any of you like to speak to this? I guess we'll start with Patty.
I think can you help me with that? I think our parents were misled. I mean, the houses may not have been the best, but I thought they were taken advantage of. We didn't know, we thought we were moving to some apartments. We didn't know that we were in a HUD project to maybe 5 years later, and they put up that big old sign, Portland Housing Development. I was too young to understand. When I realized that my neighbor could pay $12 and my parents were paying $2,000 because of my father's income, like, this is just some crap. This is just so unfair. My dad worked so hard. And a lot of times, it broke up families because if a man lived in that household, the rent went up. People had to have relationships undercover. That's crazy. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. They could have told us. And then I think the way it was set up, it's just so much confinement. You got to give people space. People got to have their own private space. We had swings that when they broke down, they never put up. We had sandboxes that the cats took over. One little basketball hoop that was a part of a driveway. If you're going to put somebody in a concentrated area, you got to think about their needs. You can't. There was no fighting. There was no bad activity in Chatham Court. First of all, we had old school moms that wouldn't have allowed it. We were not fighting amongst ourselves. You didn't hear about any trouble in Chatham Court in the whole time that I grew up there. Never. Like you said, we didn't see the cops.
No.
You gotta let people know the plans. Let them be a part of it. Let them be a part of the making and not the suffering. It could be traumatic. Imagine it for yourselves. Having your whole neighborhood have to move. You know how it feels. When there's a company coming, they're coming. They don't care about you, how much you made, where you've been, you're gone. Your life's earned, everything you know is gone. You're uprooted. That's what you're doing. Yes, you're doing, you're uprooted. I didn't feel prejudice in Portland, but I thought that was a move against blacks. Mm-hmm. That's not so true. I did, but not like David.
Anyone else have thoughts on what they should have done differently?
I think when they decided with redevelopment, at that time, we had the Martin Luther King Center. The town could have had a meeting with all the residents to come and to sit down and to explain to the residents what was happening. The town did not do that.
Yep.
So, like Patricia said, next thing you know, they individually, and they only really talked to the homeowners. They did not talk to the residents that were renting. They talked to their landlords. And the landlords did not pass on basically the landlords were going to take the money. They didn't care about their tenants. Where were they going to go? So yes, the town did not handle redevelopment very well. And as you can see, it didn't work out for them.
All right, thank you.
Love you.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question. Number 9. We might actually get through all 10 of them this time. This is for everyone. What was your best memory of growing up in Portland? And we're going to start with David.
My best memory of growing up in Portland was when I was in school, as I met my first, what was his name, black teacher. That I learned a lot from, and also going on Memorial Day, walking up from High Street to Main Street, and standing on the corner and watching the parade, and that was only because my oldest sister, Jerry, was one of the first of 4 black kids that were allowed in the high school band. Mr. Osterling was, and he was the reason for that. So, to be honest, that was about it.
Very nice. Reverend Woods.
Yeah. For me, it was anytime the young people got together to play sports in the middle of the green, and
That was his
was
place.
being able to go without authority to go over and swim in the quarry. That was the highlight of my time growing up in Portland.
My favorite time was, my mother was prejudiced, but she didn't raise us to be. And I asked her why, and she said because they treat us differently. I think my best time when I met the Floods, when they asked, when they got their first summer job, could someone work at the Bransfield Park where the black children played? I didn't know that white people would ever be concerned about a little black child or my family. The Floods showed me that. They showed us all that. To this day, I talk to Ellen. I talk to them. They're my sisters and they're my family. And when they brought me to their house, beautiful house, they were just people. And I was able to be myself. Then I had a different look on the world. I didn't have to hate a white person. I have friends. I was able to go to their house as long as my mother said, you can't go, if they can't come here, you can't go there. You know, she played that way. But I love Portland to this very day. I'm going to always love Portland. It's my home.
Thank you. Barbara.
My best memory of growing up in Portland, that I was accepted. I was not judged by the color of my skin. I was just Barbara. I didn't have to put on airs. To this day, the class of '69, we are family.
Oh.
We get together every 2 weeks at Kathy Richards' house.
Wow.
And we're family. We're not being judged by the color. I'm Barbara. And like Patricia, Portland will always be home to me.
Amen.
Yes, I live in Middletown, but I let people know I grew up in Portland. And when I come here, I know I'm back home.
That's right.
Wonderful. All right. We made it to our last question. Good job.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, we did it, Bob. Go,
This one's for everyone. What do you feel is important for future generations to learn about Portland and Portland's black history?
Who wants to go?
You go first.
I want to see it in the school. I think that these children, even the white folks, don't see enough of black people. You don't see enough black professional people. I was telling someone today, everyone should hear a black woman say, "Come here, baby. Come here, baby." Everyone should feel a hug of a black woman. That's you're not going to know to love us until you know us. I want a job in Portland. I want to be available, even if I have to read stories in my way, to them in a different sound. Introduce them to us. Introduce them. Tell them true stories.
Very nice. Reverend Woods?
I think a continuing of what you're doing now, it's very important. Make it part of not only the community, the churches, the school systems, and just in business in general. I appreciate this platform by which we can come together.
Yes.
Because we know about ourselves, but we don't really know about you because there seems to be a boundary there. There seems to be a door. We want to break through that door. And we don't want a door. We want it to be open so you can walk through, I can walk through, all of us can walk through. Because we're all here together striving to do good, to be good. So let's just make it good.
Perfect. David?
Rev's a hard person to follow. But I agree with everything that was said so far, and we need more of this. We need a change of mind in both the black race, the white race, so that we can start living together as human beings, not as blacks, not as white, not as Italians or not as Polish, but as a race of people. So we need more of this. I hope I live to see today that we had more people out this time than we did last year, but that one day that this audience will be full and they have standing, and not just black people, not just white people, but everybody.
Very nice. All yours, Barbara. You can close us out.
I think it is very important that we need to get the youth. This is wonderful today that in the audience we have no youth.
Good job.
They need to know the history of Portland, and I'm quite sure, and the schools need to get more involved, and I'm quite sure that the youth of Portland do not understand that down under the bridge now, which is supposed to be the industrial park, that was a thriving community. And we need to work harder and continue this on to now that when we have this again, that we have the youth in here and they want to learn. They live in this town, grew up in this town, to learn of the history of Portland. That, I'm sorry, that it was not always lily white. That there was a thriving black community and they were homeowners, renters, business owners, and not just thinking that all black people don't want to work, they're lazy and freeloaders and got their hands out. And we need to, I can remember growing up in Portland, Portland used to be called the bedroom town. all the professionals, doctors, because then Wesleyan, Xerox was here. They all worked in Middletown, but they lived in Portland, but were not involved in Portland. And needs to change.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I'd like to read a poem, Bob.
Is that-
I'd like to read a poem.
Patty would like to read a poem.
Okay.
So, growing up in Portland, my niece moved to Virginia. So I told her I would drive back with her. All of a sudden, we got off the highway, and all I kept seeing was this a lot of land. All of a sudden, I see these white things. I said, Tara? She saw me. She said, you all right? I said, no. I said, is that cotton? She said, yes, I'm Pat. I said, Tara, that's cotton? I made her stop the car. By this time, she was worried because I couldn't handle it. So I wrote a poem. Unpicked, unmanned. Suddenly, tears rolled down my cheeks. My hands trembled. Visions of white men on horses with rifles. Black folks bend over with busy hands. Children abnormally silent as their parents endure grueling labor, rape, and murder. I cried because there was no trees in sight. Just a hot blazing sun beating down. No water in sight. Lord, my ancestors, how their thirst was never quenched. I ran into that cotton field and I started pulling it out by its roots, and I was throwing it anywhere and everywhere. Then I heard an engine behind me, the new cotton picker. The machine went through the field with ease. My tears stopped. I was grateful that the dust landed in my face. My people were free. As I walked back to the car, I realized I was scarred. Hate filled my veins. Then I heard the old Negro spiritual, swing low, sweet chariot. The Lord's coming to carry you home. Whether I heard Harriet Tubman or the Lord himself, I was calm. I was proud. I'm a black woman. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. Please join me in thanking all of our panelists today. We had Barbara Shaw, Patty Hall Jemison, Reverend Woods, and David Roan. This program was the result of a collaborative effort. The Voices of Portland Committee was a collaboration between a number of groups, and I'd like to recognize the volunteers that helped make this possible. From the Portland Historical Society, Susan Bransfield. From the Portland Library, Jennifer Billingsley. Committee on Solidarity, Liz Habino. Friends of the Portland Library, Mary Mackey. And volunteers, David Roan and Barbara Shaw.
Hey,
How you doing? How's everybody doing today? Good, good. Just really quick, I'm always proud to sit up here and with history, right? Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right, let me. Well, it's just always wonderful to sit up here with history, right? Especially history that I'm part of. And I'm trying to carry it on, right? As Ms. Shaw said, it kind of lives through me now, right?
That's right.
I'm the next in line.
you are.
Yes, you are.
You know,
That's what I told you.
and I know that, right? And it was a blessing that they can pass it down to me.
That's
right.
right.
They found that I was acceptable to
It's in
take
your
on
blood.
that
It's in your blood.
that title, right? And it means a lot because I do try. I do try to not only have Chatham Court be a highlight to Portland, right? But myself, when I go out and represent Portland, either when I'm reading or doing some of my personal training. If you need personal training, look out for me, I do some of my classes down there at the Inner Circle.
Get it in.
But so another thing I actually do want to plug is my nonprofit. I started a new nonprofit. I do a lot of community work in Chatham Court and in the town of Portland, right? And we're official now. So I always look for support. So just keep an eye out. www.fightagainst.org. That's where you can learn more about us. I'm not sure if you heard about the wrestling show that comes to Portland every year, but we've been bringing a wrestling show, raising money for cancer with the American Cancer Society. So we always want you to support that. So if you can support that this year, this will be our 4th year actually. So that's actually awesome, you know. So, but today I'm going to read a poem, right? I am the Tom Poet Laureate, and I do take honor in that. I'm sitting back and electing the right time prepping while I'm setting the lessons learned. What is this I see in front of me? My eyes are not blind. Forever is in the divine moment that I feel more than alive. Slow down and take each second in stride. I believe it's not too late as I anxiously, patiently wait. Religions continue to schism over debates. Countries of peace that are not supposed to hate try to clean slate and increase the rate of the war-torn innocent that need to flee. Veterans living on the streets. Tons of wasted food, but our hungry don't eat. If we had peace, we wouldn't need any soldiers. In 2025, we have full-time teleporters and humans who still suffer from lack of water. We fight over pennies while we admire the money hoarders. We're stuck in a cycle. Is this the future of our sons and daughters? We are the caretakers of Earth, yet we argue over each other's worth. Some care more about a game than giving fellow man support. Imagine if helping became a worldwide sport. There would be a different flow on the field and a new competition on the court. We can't go to the past nor entertain passing through future's borders. We can learn from the old past to find the best trail forward. Even if 2 steps back means we create personal safety order. Where does your heart feel secure during sorrow? Thank God, oh my God, please God, get me through this day. I'm here to inform you it's okay, you just pray. We are alike more than the majority knows. We put too much emphasis on the first features the human body shows. Pierce through the eyes of the forever and become bold. Our spirit shines, is worth more than gold. Stay humble, be peaceful, respect others, and always strengthen your soul. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nod.
Thank you, Najee. Very nice. That concludes our program.